Welcome to week 3 of my speed talks, and tonight I'm going to be focusing on the ethical foundations of metta, really sort of leading on from the wonderful presentation and meditation from Chandra Prabha. So I want to emphasize the a link between our ethical behavior and our ability to engage with and deepen our experience of metta. So we'll have a little look at our points that I'm just going to cover. Thank you, Sthiranāga. So going to have a look at the reason for being ethical, have a look at some interactions with others, and carry on talking about the positive precepts, which Chandra Prabha did so eloquently earlier on, and then just sort of try and give a bit of a hint of the beauty in the awareness of others. Thanks, Sthiranāga. So anyone who's attended our Wednesday night newcomers class will be familiar with the classical formulation of the Buddhist path of ethics, meditation, and wisdom. So how we behave changes our state of mind. That's the role of ethics. And once our mind becomes healthier and clearer, we can enter into a more concentrated, enriched, more flexible state of mind in our meditation. And with that greater focus and that maybe more purified mind, we can turn towards the way things really are. So that's the wisdom aspect. And what's important here is that our relationship and interaction with others is vital to enable us to expand our consciousness and to follow the path towards liberation, or however else you want to describe taking up a Dharma life. So we're going to take a look at the first part of the Karaniya Metta Sutta, which Sthiranāga will bring up in a minute, from the Samyutta Nikaya. And some of you will be familiar with this. So we looked at this last week, and this section talks about the qualities needed to realize our spiritual potential, to become awakened, to become free of suffering. And we've got 3 slightly different translations here, and I've just highlighted some key aspects that I wanted to bring out. So firstly, there's the need to be straight. So what this is alluding to is the need for us to do things in an open, straightforward, and uncomplicated way. And to do this, we need a fair amount of integration, of knowing ourselves and not covering up or obscuring the truth about our feelings, our habits, and essentially who we are. That doesn't mean simply allowing ourselves to be blunt or crude, but being able to be open and honest alongside a true awareness of others. And the various translations also talk of being gentle, polite, honest, and harmonious. And these are all points that point to relationships with others. Thanks, Sthiranāga. So this is one reason why we need to really pay close attention to our ethical life, and also why, as we commit more and more deeply into a Dharma life, say when we commit to becoming a mitra or ask for ordination or join the order, we start to develop close and trusting relationships with others, where we can share and explore our experience of a life lived with the guiding principles of the precepts. So we need to be attentive about our experience with others, aware of our actions, our communication, and our thoughts in relation to those that we come into contact with. And one way in which we can really help to nurture that seed, that kernel of metta, which I described last week, is to look for opportunities to practice the positive aspects of the precepts, which Chandra Prabha was talking about: kindness, generosity, contentment, integrity, and awareness. Now, I actually know someone who, before they go to bed each night, they review all of their various interactions with other people that they've had throughout the day, just to see whether they could have been a bit kinder or a bit more generous, etc. And I find that a really inspiring practice. So to do this effectively, we need to develop an awareness of others. And this brings me to one of my favorite quotes from Bhante, which we'll see on the screen. Thanks, Sthiranāga. Love means awareness of the being of another person. Love means awareness of the being of another person. And I just find that such an inspiring and beautiful statement. Thanks, Sthiranāga. And our experience of love is often what in Buddhism we call pema. Pema is love and affection for others, but in an ordinary human sense. And it can range right from erotic desire to just simple, warm feelings for another human being. And we can often consider that our strongest relationships are those within our families or for our families and our close friendships. But what we can miss is that within these relationships, there's often a strong sense of attachment. And although we may not realize it, this attachment can often have at its root a desire for security, a desire to keep things the way they are, to stay the same. And we can use these relationships to build a kind of refuge against the challenges and difficulties of life. So when we look really deeply at these sort of relationships, they can often have a significant undercurrent of self-interest. Now, pema is a positive emotion in its own way. However, metta is positive in the spiritual sense, not just from a worldly perspective. And metta is also different because there's no attachment, there's no self-interest. There's not even a need to be near the object, much less to be kind of in possession of it. So instead of acting from a sense of self-interest, we need to truly see and become aware of others. And as Bhante goes on to say in that lecture from 1968, where he's talking about speech, if we don't know the other person, it's simply not possible to speak affectionately towards them. And of course, this applies not just to our communication, but also our acts of kindness and generosity. So how can we act kindly towards someone if we don't really know what they might appreciate as kindness? How can we give someone something if we don't know or don't have that deep engagement to know what it is that they truly need? Now, of course, intention's important here, but to ensure that that intention truly hits the mark, we need to deepen our understanding and awareness of the other person. And of course, when we're doing this, we're expanding outwards and gently and gradually nurturing those seeds of metta. So we're moving away from a self-centered experience of the world to one that values and cherishes others just as much as we might focus on ourselves. So this brings me on to my tip of the week, which is developing awareness for others. So in developing a greater awareness of others, the first thing that we can do is to really listen to others. So the busyness of our modern life can often mean that we're multitasking a lot of the time, not really taking in the other person when they're talking to us. And our little demon screens are often calling for our attention, as well as many other distractions. So this is an area I've worked with for a number of years, and I've made some improvement, but it's still an area that needs quite a lot of attention in my life anyway. And secondly, there's a taking a genuine interest in someone else, not using our interactions with others, even those closest to us, as simply an opportunity to just tell the latest installment of our story. And when we do take an interest, we can spot opportunities where we can genuinely and appropriately express qualities like kindness and generosity. And then lastly, and this is a bit of a favorite of mine, some of you may know, and that's noting key events in people's lives. So the obvious one is people's birthdays. Now, I'm not suggesting you start buying presents for everyone whose birthday you discover, but sometimes maybe a text or maybe mentioning it if you see them. Other examples might be when someone's about to start a new job, or on the day of a difficult meeting that you've heard them talking about, or before a hospital appointment, or maybe when they're due to get the results of a test or an exam. And if we're attentive and if we take an interest in others and really listen, you'll be surprised at how many opportunities for connection and for being able to put those positive precepts into action emerge. And when we act on these, using those positive qualities of the precepts, what we do is we help to feed and water those precious seeds of metta.